Good afternoon, JMU class of 2025. My name is Dr. Tim Miller. I serve as the Vice President for Student Affairs here at JMU, and I'm excited to be the moderator for this amazing student panel. Welcome to JMU, welcome to this conversation, and with that, I'm going to dive right in and have the students introduce themselves.
Hey, Adam Mayers here. I'm a senior business management major with an HR concentration and a minor in military leadership. I'm kind of from all over the place when my family settled in Woodbridge a few years ago. I'm a hall director at JMU. I am a National Guard soldier and a JMU ROTC cadet, and I'm also a facilitator for the university.
Hey y'all, I'm Addie. I'm a senior psychology major with a criminal justice minor from Matthews, Virginia. I'm a resident advisor for the Office of Residence Life on campus, and I'm also involved in the Office of Student Accountability and Restorative Practices.
Hey everyone, my name's Andrew. I'm a senior health science major with a concentration in public health education. I'm from Rockville, Maryland, and on campus at JMU, I'm the student coordinator of the Well Peers. We're an organization that facilitates health promotion programs and events for JMU students that addresses topics like STIs, healthy relationships, alcohol, and more. And I'm also in JMU's pre-law fraternity on campus, Phi Alpha Delta.
Hi everyone, I'm Kayla Edwards. I'm a junior health sciences major, political science minor from Chesapeake, Virginia. I've been involved in a lot here on campus, but most recently the Madison Society, and I am a student assistant to Dr. Miller.
Hi everyone, my name is Megan Herman. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a senior political science major with a minor in humanitarian affairs from Annapolis, Maryland. On campus, I'm involved in a few things. I'm a student ambassador, so I give tours of this beautiful place. I'm a member of Alpha Delta Pi sorority, and I've worked for orientation for the past 2 years.
Great, well, welcome to all of you. Thanks for using some of your Sunday or Saturday, wow, I forgot what day it was, Saturday in this way to give back. We're going to have a video here in a second, but as you have comments and questions, folks, just put them in the comments on YouTube and we'll get through all those. We have a few other questions I want them to answer, but we really want to hear from you. So this video we're about to show was filmed before COVID, so you'll see a lot of people, you'll see really no one in masks, but it depicts the life we expect you to have when you come to campus this fall. So we're excited for you to have this sneak peek, and we'll be right back so we can do your questions and get to know our students.
My favorite part about living on campus is just you're kind of around everybody, so you'll be able to make connections and just meet people and build relationships. In the dining halls, they actually try and promote little stations and hubs where you can have a healthier food options than the regular norm. Sometimes it's really easy to eat the same things, but when you really look at it, there's a lot of variety and there's a lot of things you can do to switch up your meals to have so many different options and venues and varieties you can choose from.
One thing I wish I knew before coming to JMU is just how big the campus was. The bus system is great, so that really helps in cutting down the time that it takes to get from one end to the other. The ICS buses, intercampus shuttles, are running every 5 minutes, and that makes it super convenient.
I love my dorm. My roommate is amazing, and the people in my hall, they just welcome me every time I walk in. We sit together in the lounge and do homework, or we'll just hang out and get to know each other, and it's a great opportunity to meet other freshmen.
Living with other people and being so close to your classes and just being a walking distance to everything that JMU has to offer.
It's a place where you can grow. But even your hallmates, they all want to see you do better, be the best version of you. I think I've really found that here at JMU. Couldn't imagine myself being anywhere else.
All right, well, great. Hope you all enjoyed that. Again, gives you a little flavor for JMU since you're not here today. So I want to start off, and again, as you have questions, just put them in the comments and we'll make sure we get through all of them. I'm gonna start with a couple that I have that I think are really important. So for the panelists, I want all of you to answer this one. When was your JMU is going to be where you're going to go to college moment? So when was that moment when you were either you're walking around campus or you're sitting at home or whatever it was, can you each describe, and we'll do the same order of the intros, sort of when you knew JMU was your place and where you wanted to go?
So for me, funny enough, it didn't have too much to do with JMU itself. There's this place off campus on South Main Street called Grilled Cheese Mania. And back when I toured JMU, it was just a food truck. It wasn't even the Grilled Cheese Mania shop. But I realized sitting there eating that wonderful grilled cheese. I was like, dang, I could eat this grilled cheese all day. I really see myself eating this grilled cheese. And then funny enough, as I was touring other universities, like, eating on their campuses, I'm a foodie, and just touring their campuses, sitting in their spaces, I was like, this is a cool place. Yeah. And I'm sure a lot of other people enjoy it. But like thinking back to JMU and Grilled Cheese Mania, especially, like I really could see myself here. I could see myself, going downtown, grabbing food, going to Grilled Cheese Mania, grabbing food, walking around campus, sitting in JMU spaces. I couldn't really see that for myself in a lot of other spaces. Great spaces, great universities in Virginia. But for me, I felt most at home, and I saw myself at JMU where I didn't see myself at those other places.
For me personally, I don't remember an exact moment where I had the epiphany that JMU was where I wanted to be, but I remember touring once when I was 14 and then again when I was 16, and I just couldn't shake the feeling that that was where I was supposed to be. It wasn't really like a magical moment or anything. I just kept going back to it, and I just knew that the people were nice and the people were just a really good addition to the kind of community that I was hoping and looking for in a university. So I think that's what sold it for me.
Kind of like Addison, I didn't really have like a single moment, but I never even heard of JMU before I toured it. I think my parents suggested it. And so I think JMU was the first school I toured when I was looking at colleges. And then I toured probably like 6 or 7 other schools that I applied to. And I guess one moment I remember touring JMU, and it was really welcoming, like the ambassadors that was giving me the tour, and then the football stadium, like smack in the middle of campus, really sold me. I don't know, I really liked it. And then I guess yeah, I would toward the other schools, but then JMU was still at the top of my list.
Yeah, so for me, I was very indecisive when I was applying to colleges. I applied to 10 of them to be exact. Um, and I'm not going to call out any schools' names, but I was visiting a school right down the road from here and absolutely hated it. Was like, wow, this is miserable. But I had a friend that was going to JMU, and I had applied, and I was like, well, since we're like 15 minutes up the road, might as well. So came to visit with a friend, and I don't know, really was like that feeling that was like, wow, this just feels right. And I went home and visited a couple other schools afterwards, but I couldn't, kind of like Addison, like I just couldn't shake the feeling that like it was just the right place to be. Um and honestly, there hasn't been a moment that I've been here that I've regretted the decision either. So yeah, I'm really happy that I made the choice and recommend it to everyone. I love it here.
And for me, I'm a first generation college student, so going through the college search was incredibly difficult and challenging and confusing at times for me. But the first time I ever met somebody from JMU was at a college fair, and he was one of the nicest people I've ever met, one of the nicest college reps I've ever met. And he told me, Megan, you should really come to campus. I think you would really click with it. And so I was like, I'll make my parents go down there and we'll try it out. And I absolutely fell in love. He was right. Everybody there was just as nice, if not nicer, than he was. And I really felt that supportive spirit. A lot of the other schools I applied to, when I went, I could kind of see myself there. I can be like a chameleon and fit in a bunch of different places. But for me, JMU was where I felt comfortable and like I would be supported and like people would push me to be successful. So that was really my choice here.
All right, great. Well, thanks all of you for those great answers. We have a lot of questions coming in, so we'll try and get through these quickly, but also with great answers. So the first question we have is from Nicole, asking about food options and allergies. I'll note a couple quick things and see if anyone wants to add in. In D Hall, there's actually a room called the Worry Free Zone that we've created, and you can request that access to that space, and it's free of allergens. So the options in the room include gluten-free bread, bagels, waffles, snacks, all those types of things. So you have the ability to go in there. It's also a lot of prepackaged items, so you know that they're safe and they haven't been cross-contaminated. So that is actually a really great place. And then interesting, I just found a quote from a student that cheese please at festival, not to make everything about grilled cheese in this conversation, but they said that they're always really focused on her allergens and making sure that there's no cross-contamination when she goes there. So there are lots of options. You can go to you can go to dining directly and ask them about it and work with them, and they can help you identify these are probably the best places for you to go and eat. I don't know if I'm trying not to answer questions, but did any of the students want to add anything, or should we move to the next question? Go ahead, Kayla.
My favorite thing on campus to eat is the vegan snickerdoodles. So like they obviously have like no animal products in them. Literally my favorite, better than a regular snickerdoodle that they have. Like sometimes they'll have both of them and I will literally go get the vegan ones because I think they taste that much better. So I feel like even if you do have an allergy or you're vegetarian, vegan, whatever, we have options, and I don't think I've ever had one that hasn't been good.
Okay, great, thanks. So next question we have is from Lucy, and I'm going to ask if Megan and Addie can do this one. She's asking, what is it like being a first-year student at JMU? So Addie, why don't we start with you and then go to Megan?
So the first year experience at JMU is something that is really unique and something that's really special. I noticed my first year, as soon as I came to campus, that everyone kind of cares about you a little bit more than making sure that you know where you're going and making sure that you're able to ask questions and things like that. There's also a lot of events pre-COVID, obviously, that are set up specifically for first year students outside of your residence hall and also inside of your residence halls too. And you just get a lot of special like attention as a first year student because we want to make sure that you're comfortable in our community, and we want to make sure that you're feeling like you're supported and things like that.
Yeah, I would really echo that. I think, especially working with orientation and getting to be in that feel, the people working in that office are very intentional about making sure that first years feel welcomed and comfortable and like they can take the university by storm whenever they choose. I think that we have a first year orientation guides, or we call them frogs, and they're with you for your entire first year for literally anything you could ever need or want. They're there to help guide you and be one of your first friends on campus, which is really big for me coming from out of state to have people there who had my back. And I think just to go off of what Addie said, that welcoming atmosphere, people care about you and want to make sure you're successful right off the bat.
Great, appreciate that. So we're going to go, Johnny wants to know about favorite JMU traditions, and I'm going to ask if Kayla and Andrew can answer this one.
My favorite JMU tradition, I think, would have to be at our football games. Whenever we score a touchdown, we throw streamers. And I'm a big sports person, grew up loving sports. And so coming here, I was like, oh, it's like a different type of atmosphere, everything. But this has probably been the best sports atmosphere ever. And when everyone scores and we all throw streamers, it's just the best feeling in the world because we're actually good. And so we throw streamers a lot, so it's a lot of fun.
That's actually my answer too, but I'll just say the same thing. Like I love the football games, throwing the streamers. I don't know. Like I haven't really been to football games at other colleges, but going to football games at JMU because we're actually good is like really exciting. Staying the whole game, not staying the whole game. A lot of people only stay till halftime just because we are usually winning by a lot. But that's one JMU tradition. But another one I can think of that I also like is the holding the door open tradition. Like it's just a tradition at JMU when you're walking around campus in your dorm or whatever, that you just hold the door for other students or anyone coming in behind you. I just think it's a really like friendly, nice thing.
Okay, great. Adam, I think this one's specifically for you. So we had a question about what is it like being in JMU's ROTC program that came from Ryan?
Yeah, so Ryan, it's somehow the most rewarding and most killer thing I've done at JMU. When it comes down to it, like just for context, last semester I was the battalion command sergeant major for JMU's ROTC program, so I'm a little bit biased, but I do love the program. Uh, it's so like you learn so much in terms of just general army stuff, preparing you for a career in the army, and just general leadership and people stuff, like learning to interact with people from every walk of life and get a job done. And that makes it very worth the 5 a.m. wake ups every week. The Saturdays you get taken away from you to go out and play soldier in the woods for a little bit, and the classes and labs that you have to do throughout the week. So there's some academic rigor there. We get you physically fit. We keep you physically fit. So it is very challenging in terms of academics and fitness and leadership. Like you're challenged in a lot of regards, but those challenges really build you a lot. So it can be stressful, it can be challenging, and it can be a little killer sometimes, but it's a very, very rewarding experience. And I encourage you, if you've got questions, to reach out to ROTC at jmu.edu for any questions at all. There are a lot of scholarships. There are a lot of just programs where you can kind of help pay for school a little bit. So it's stressful, challenging, but so rewarding, and it does help you get through school if you need it.
All right, great. Thanks, Adam. So we had two different questions about residence hall, so we're just going to combine these together and have everybody answer. So first, people want to know where you lived your first year. So we want to answer that. And then we were asked about by Casey about the most convenient locations. And Casey, I think what you're going to find is that everyone will tell you that their residence hall was the best. So we'll start and just let everybody tell, where they lived their first year. And Andy was asking that, where everyone was their first year. And then if you can also just talk about location for each of your halls really quickly. We're going to do reverse alphabetical order and put you to the test. So to help out, that means Megan's first.
All right, so my first year, I lived in Dingledine Hall, ding ding, in the Village. I love the Village so much. It has a very hype atmosphere. I felt like there was always energy around me. Sometimes it was chaotic, but I loved it. It was great as a first year to really get me out of my comfort zone and meeting a lot of different people. Um, I would say convenience is a difficult question because it depends on what you're looking for. I think Village for me was really convenient, and I wanted it because it was close to the football stadium and I knew I was going to be going to games. It was close to a dining hall called D Hub that we had over there at the time. It's not there anymore, but now it's kind of a study flex space. It's also fairly close to the quad. I am a liberal arts major, so a lot of my classes were on the quad. So it was really quick for me to just zoom from Village over to my classes.
Yeah, so I lived in Gifford Hall, which is now not for freshmen. But I lived there because my roommate was in the teaching learning community. ROOP is what it's called, and now it's in Jennings, so which is really, really nice. But Gifford was very convenient because it was literally basically a building away from the quad. And there's a bus stop right there. So if I needed to go to East Campus, the ICS would be right there. It was a less than a 5-minute walk from D Hall. Also right down the desk stairs to the stadium. It had suite bathrooms, so I didn't really have to share with anyone. It was just the four of us. I was around the first floor. It was great. I recommend it to anyone, but also learning communities, also recommend that. I wasn't in one, but my roommates loved it, so.
And Kayla, just before we keep moving, can you explain the death stare since people don't know what we're talking about?
Yeah, so sorry. So to get to the stadium, there's probably 5 flights of stairs of sets of stairs to get down there. And so walking up, by the time you get up, you're like, wow, I'm dying. So everyone calls them the death stairs. So I usually walk down the death stairs to get to the stadium, but not up. I will usually ride the bus back.
So my freshman year, I lived on East Campus in a dorm that used to be called Potomac Hall. I don't know I forgot what it's called now, Dr. Miller.
Which one?
Potomac.
Chandler.
Yes, now it's called Chandler. I think every residence hall has the pros and cons. I liked living right next to East Campus Dining Hall, E Hall, because it's like 100 feet from our dorm, and we would go there for, I don't know, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And we had festival there, which is also like 100 feet from our dorm. So over East Campus, like the food facilities are really close, and also a lot of people in my hall were engineering or bio majors, and all of their classes were usually on East Campus. So that can be a factor, I guess, when you're choosing your residence hall, unless you're coming in undecided. But they would sometimes, like people in my hall, my roommate, he was engineering. He would just get up like 5 minutes before his class and walk over to his class on East Campus. But definitely, I was definitely jealous sometimes of people who lived in the village. My dorm had air conditioning, and I think village still doesn't, but it's kind of right in the middle of everything, and it's close to the quad eating facilities. And I don't know, I felt like some people in the village like got to know each other better than maybe a dorm on East Campus, because they lived in suites and they had a lot more people talking to when they first got there. And the East Campus halls are more just really long halls, and your dorms, like it's really one long hall, and then you have your dorms. But I liked living on East Campus.
So for my first year, I lived in Hoffman Hall on the Quad in Bluestone. And I really loved the location. It was Jack and Jill suite style, like a few other people had. So you were only sharing the bathroom with 3 other people. I loved that building, and I will preach on Hoffman Hall all day long. But I have been in Hillside Hall for the past 2 years as an RA, and I have got to say I love Hillside too. I like the location of Hillside a lot. It's pretty central in campus. So you have the new dining hall, Duke's Dining, which is like 100 feet away. And then you're close to D Hall and Market and those dining locations. You're close to the bookstore, you're close to the stadium. It's just a really central location. So I liked Hoffman Hall also because of the location and how nice it is, but I do prefer Hillside.
So my first year, I was in Chesapeake Hall, and then as an RA, I was in Hoffman and Hillside Halls, and now I'm at Wampler Hall as a hall director. But I've got to agree with Addie here. Hillside for me was a very central location. I'm a business major, so I could just walk right down Bluestone Drive to the College of Business building. D Hall right next to Hillside Hall, just a stone's throw away. And then UREC is also right down Bluestone Drive. So for me, Hillside Hall was a pretty nice central location. Yeah, that Wampler is the best hall, but it's for continuing students, not first years. So you'll have to wait a year to get into Wampler. But when you can, make sure you get in there.
I love it. I will note one note from Andrew's comment. We have actually added air conditioning to all the village halls now. So the common spaces actually do. So it is a good change for all those in the village, because the village is the largest, one of the largest living areas. So that has made a big difference. So just so people don't say, I don't want the village because of the air conditioning, it is much improved there. So let's keep moving. We have a lot of different questions here. Undecided, we had a question about question number 7 from Audrey. How does JMU help you decide what to major in if you go in undecided? And Addie, we're going to see if you can help out there.
Yeah, so I personally didn't come into JMU undecided, but a majority of my friends did my first year. And something that I noticed that really helped them a lot was the Gen Ed curriculum that we have. I would highly, highly recommend, if you're coming in undecided, to take classes in that Gen Ed program that you find to be interesting, or maybe you think you might like a little bit. And see, play around, see what you like. The Gen Ed program is there to help you find things that, maybe you may be a little bit more interested in than others and things like that. So I would highly recommend taking advantage of the Gen Ed program, in addition to also speaking with your academic advisor. Maybe talk with them a little bit about like your interests and maybe like long-term career goals, if that's something that you have thought of at the moment, to maybe see if they can work with you to see how you can get there as far as major, minor, concentration, and things like that.
One thing I would just add before we go to the next question is I actually came to JMU with one major and I changed majors 4 times. And one of the values for me of JMU is that I wasn't stuck of, oh, I wanted to do this and that's all JMU's good at. JMU has such a wide variety of really strong majors that even though I came here as a tuba major, I graduated with a political science major, and they were both incredibly strong programs. So I've always felt really proud of how JMU is really doesn't just focus in one area, but has lots of amazing opportunities for students in and out of the classroom. So let's talk about a little bit out of the classroom. I assume that's where this answer will go. From Meru, what's your favorite college experience that you wouldn't have gotten anywhere other than JMU? And why don't we start with Megan? We'll see if anyone else wants to jump on after Megan.
I think one of my favorite college experiences I couldn't have gotten anywhere else actually did happen on campus when I was a first year. One of the big things that we do during weeks of welcome for our first year students is called Play Fair. So all of the first year students go and get to run out on the field in the stadium, which is just so much fun. And then we do a bunch of games, and you pose in a big JMU thing they take a picture of and use in all the promo stuff so you can be famous. But it was just a really fun event to get to meet people. I'm an introvert, so I was definitely nervous to go, but I had so much fun, and just getting to bond with students and have that time where it was just such a fun energy that really got me excited for the college experience was totally unique.
Anyone else want to jump in?
I can take it too. Well, I was just gonna say I can attest to what Megan said too, because all my friends from home, they go to a bunch of different schools in Maryland and out of state, and I don't know any other school that does anything like Frog Week, and just it allows you to get out of your comfort zone, meet all the people in your dorm, in your hall, whatever it is. And I live with two of my hallmates right now, and I'm a senior. And I feel like it started at Frog Week, and like that first week we got here, just getting to know everyone with all the events we did, like Play Fair and everything else.
All right, so let's keep moving. So I'll just handle this one quickly. Question about applying for and finding a roommate for gender inclusive housing. We actually do that as a very individualized process. So even these students probably wouldn't know about it. So you actually will work directly with Dawn in our residence life office, and she'll help. She basically takes in all those that have expressed interest, and she'll work with each individual student to match them up. So on purpose, we do that as a very sort of not in person, but individual process. So you'll work directly with Residence Life when you apply for it. We're actually expanding it across the entire campus for next year. So there are a lot of different buildings that are allowed, almost all the buildings. So happy to help you work through that and make sure you can get a place that you feel comfortable living with a great roommate. So let's move on. We have our next question. Question about fun things to do off campus from Grace. And let's start with Megan and Adam on that.
Yeah, for me, my big interests are food, kind of like Adam. I'm a big foodie, and Harrisonburg's downtown area has so many amazing restaurants. And as a first year student, downtown is really close. You can walk it if you've got walking legs, or you can take the bus down there a lot of the time. And it's just a lot of fun to go down there. I love this place called Billy Jack's. I tell everybody who I meet to go there. They have something called sticky nugs, which is little chicken nuggets with whatever sauce you want in a little Chinese food container. And they're the best thing. And they have fried mac and cheese balls, and they're delicious. So just the food is amazing. If you're an outdoorsy person, we are in the Shenandoah Valley, so there's tons of beautiful hiking spots. It's not for me, but I know a lot of other people really love to do that. And Harrisonburg is just a really rich, diverse community in itself. Something that I like to go to every year is the Multicultural Festival. So people from all different cultures and walks of life come together and show off what makes them unique. And it's a really special event too that I love around here.
Megan pretty much just stole all my answers. So I guess I'll just echo some of the stuff she said. No, downtown is great. The buses are very accessible for folks who might have accessibility issues, as well as a lot of places downtown. So for folks with accessibility issues, downtown is a great place to go. And there are other parts of Harrisonburg that you can go to as well for fun. For folks who are able to, yeah, backpacking and hiking. I say backpacking because I'm a backpacker, but the hiking in general is great in the valley. And then I had one more, the farmers market downtown. the farmers market is so fun. Saturdays downtown, right by the city hall building, spectacular. So downtown, just the valley in general is great. And then if you find friends, which you will, who are able to drive, just local place like Stanton, 30 minutes away. There's some great places to eat down in Stanton as well. So just the whole valley area is great. But downtown especially, and some of these hiking spots are spectacular.
Anyone else want to? Yeah, go ahead, Kayla.
I'd like to add that as a first year, you might think, oh my gosh, like how am I gonna get to like go hiking and all that kind of stuff? Like I'm gonna need a car, I'm gonna need supplies, yada yada, XYZ. But UREC is really great about hosting events like hiking, canoeing, kayaking, all that kind of stuff. It literally will take you to the Shenandoah National Park and you go on a day hike, all that kind of stuff. So utilize UREC. You can even rent camping equipment, all that kind of stuff. So UREC is the place to do all that kind of stuff if you're interested.
And I'll put you on the spot again, Kayla. UREC is?
Our university recreation center, so like the gym, even though it's way more than a gym, obviously, than what I've said, but our gym.
Yep, love it. All right, so let's talk about internships. Ryan had a question about, are there internships outside of Harrisonburg, or are they all located near campus? I think the answer is both and, but let's have Addie go.
Hello. So I'm currently doing an internship in my major and it is on campus, but I know that we had options to go as far as Charlottesville out, which if you're not familiar is about an hour, hour and a half away from Harrisonburg. So I think another answer maybe is that it depends on your major and kind of like the programs that they're offering within that. But I'd say with my experience, it's pretty open-ended as far as locations and things like that. And also, if you can't go every day, supervisors are usually pretty easygoing about maybe going like once a week or something like that. So I would definitely look into your major and see what kind of locations they're partnered with and go from there.
Anyone else want to weigh in on the internships? So the other thing I would mention is that we also have the DC semester that we run here every semester, where you can actually go and you live in and you take your classes in Washington DC, and there's an internship tied to that. So there's also those options as well. So lots of different ways that you can do it depending on what you're looking for. So we have our next question, and this is from Sabrina. Do people tend to stay at school over the weekends, or does everyone seem to leave almost every weekend? Have Megan and Andrew take this one. Let's start with Andrew this time and then go to Megan.
Yeah, so I have a lot of friends here that are from Virginia, a lot from Northern Virginia, wherever else in Virginia, but people don't leave as often as you may think, even though like Northern Virginia is only an hour and a half, an hour away. But most people do stay here during the weekend, just like working on the weekend or doing off-campus stuff like we talked about earlier. But I don't know that many people that go home every single weekend or anything like that.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's really been my experience having friends from close around here. They do go home more often than I do, being from out of state, but I think it's just a convenience thing. There's always so much stuff going on and off campus on the weekends that you'll get FOMO if you're not here hanging out with everybody else. So a lot of students do choose to stay here and hang out and enjoy each other's company on the weekends.
And I also find, from my perspective, a lot of students from other schools visit here on the weekend. So it's actually more likely that they're coming here from their school than the other way around. Okay, so let's keep going. We have a question from Haley. What happens if you aren't accepted into your concentration or a certain major? Kayla, do you want to take that?
Yeah, so I didn't have to apply to my major since I'm health sciences, but a lot of my friends are either like education or business or nursing. And a lot of them didn't get in the first time. And it's all right. It's okay. You might think the world's falling apart, but it's not. Usually what everyone does is like retakes one or two classes that they think they didn't do too well in, and they reapply and get in the second time usually. It's not usually when it happens, you're like, oh my gosh, it's the end of the world. Like I'm done, but it's not. It's really, I'm not going to say it's simple, but it's easy enough that like it's doable and you can work through it.
Great. And there's again, like I said earlier, there's also lots of options. A lot of people come to college thinking, I have to do this major. That's what I want to do. And you get in and you're like, I don't know that I actually like that major because I'm now taking classes and it's not for me. So this is a really great time of personal exploration. So I'm going to take the next one just because I don't want to put any of the students on the spot for this. Question is from Audrey. How normal, in quotes, do you expect this fall to be in relation to COVID? Audrey, I'll tell you and everyone, we are planning for the best. We are planning for an in-person semester. We're planning on classes in person, life in person. We just released our football schedule for the fall. I'll tell you, I bet you we're still going to be wearing masks a lot. But I know for me and what we're doing right now, we're planning for as close to pre-COVID as possible. And I think that I'm going to live in the world of positivity and say that's what it's going to be. So that's what we're really hoping for and planning for this fall. And I believe that once, we're partnering right now with Virginia Department of Health to get people vaccinated. I expect we'll have all of our faculty and staff vaccinated by the end of this year. And then we'll be working with them throughout the summer and then have some plans in place to vaccinate the incoming class. So we're planning to make sure that we're ready to roll. And I'm ready for JMU to be back. I want to look out my window here on the quad and see even more students than I saw this last week. So that's our plan, and that's what we're hoping will happen, and that's what we're going to plan for. So let's move on to Aaron's question. Are overnight visitors typically allowed? And we're going to have Adam, the hall director, answer that one.
So I want to preface this with, given COVID and JMU's COVID mitigation policies, we're not allowing any guests in the residence halls right now if they don't live in that residence hall. But typically, and possibly in the fall, depending on where COVID goes and what JMU looks like and what the Valley looks like, what will happen is your RA will sit down with you and facilitate a roommate agreement between you and your roommate or roommates. And typically, roommates have no issue with overnight guests. It totally depends on what that relationship looks like and kind of what your roommates are comfortable with. I don't think I've ever seen roommates outside of issues mid-year ever say, oh, no overnight guests. So it really depends on what your roommates are comfortable with and what you're comfortable with. So yeah, they're definitely allowed up to the point where your roommate has an issue with it. And then your RAs help you facilitate and coach you through that conversation as well if your roommates have an issue with it. So short answer, yes. Long answer, it's a conversation with your roommates.
All right. And again, part of life, I always tell people that learning to live with someone's going to be a life skill you're going to use the rest of your life. So it's good to learn it now, having a permanent roommate for the last 20 years myself. So let's talk about, we got a question about LGBTQ students and life here on campus. I want to have Megan answer that one, and we'll see if anyone else wants to weigh in as well.
Yeah, I think our campus is super accepting and inclusive of the LGBTQ plus community. I'm not a member of the community, so I can't directly speak to an experience for someone in the community. But from what I've seen, JMU does a lot on inclusivity of all different types of groups. I think something great that we have on campus is called SOGI, and it's our Center for Sexual Orientation, Gender Identity, and Expression. And they work a lot with the LGBTQ plus community. They have different events for the community, like the Trans Day of Remembrance. They do, typically without COVID, the coming out monologues on National Coming Out Day. They do a lavender graduation for members of the community and just a lot of other things for engagement. So I think it's a place where we're really trying to improve what we already have, but we do have some really good resources.
Great. I think that's a great response. Go ahead, Andrew.
I was just going to add, so I'm the student coordinator of the Well Peers, like talked about at the beginning. So we do health promotion events and programs, and we partner a lot with SOGI, and they also do program type things and also the events that we talked about. And I feel like in a lot of student organizations, they will not apply, but they'll ask SOGI to do programs for their student organization. And in my experience, I feel like JMU students they're always wanting to learn more about the LGBTQ plus community with these programs, asking a lot of questions when I've attended them or I've seen them be done. And I feel like JMU students are generally very inclusive in trying to learn about the community, and SOGI is a great example of that.
All right, great. And again, right in the center of SSC, Student Success Center, right in the heart of that building too. So you'll see the Lavender Lounge every time you walk through the building. So it is very prominent on this campus. We've got a lot of questions, so I'm going to handle this next one. Can you bring your cards the first year? No. You can do it right now with COVID, but we won't be doing that in the fall. Again, going back to the normal world. I understand there's some weird, sketchy, like parking lots you can sort of rent spaces in off campus. I'm gonna let you figure that out on your own. I never think that's a good idea. Thus calling them weird and sketchy. So that'll be the answer to that one. Let's move to, and sorry, Kenley, sorry, that's not a better answer. So Sabrina was wondering about how hard it is to make friends if you go in not knowing anyone. So Megan, why don't we start with you, and then we'll see if someone else wants to add to that. So Megan, go ahead.
Yeah, I think definitely at first it can be a little bit tough. I won't sugarcoat it and say that it's always magical. You know, I came in knowing absolutely nobody and I was definitely overwhelmed at first. I cried a few nights when I first got there, wondering if I'd ever make any friends and if I'd ever fit in. And, you know, now I'm a senior and I have a bunch of friends and I absolutely love my life here. So I think sometimes it takes time, but some things that really help are talking to people in your hall, talking to your suite mates, getting involved in clubs that suit your interests because you'll meet people with similar interests and values. So really just putting yourself out there. You have to be willing to put in the work, and sometimes it's hard, especially for introverts, but it is worthwhile and you will find your people.
I was gonna add, I also came here not knowing anyone, being from Maryland. No one from my high school went here. Like a lot of my friends here, they say, oh, like 20 people from my high school went here, so they knew some people coming in. But it definitely was scary at the beginning, coming in, not knowing anyone. But I think Frog Week does help with that, and like all the events and stuff that they do during Frog Week, your first week, helps you meet a lot of people in your dorm, and also it can be scary, but my number one tip for getting to know people, I'd say, when you first get here, is just to put yourself out there. Again, I know it can be really hard. Like it was hard for me, but just talking to people in your hall, introducing yourself, or just saying hi, talking to people in your classes or right outside of class, after, before class, that can be really helpful. But I can say once you get into the groove and start meeting people, you meet a lot of people. It's not very hard.
Addie, do you mind adding to that?
I can add to that. I would highly emphasize branching out in your residence hall. All of my friends that I have now, I met in my residence hall, either my first year or working with them as RAs. So I would definitely utilize your hall, not just your specific floor, but the entire community as a whole. Utilize those common spaces like laundry rooms, kitchens, lounges, things like that. I would definitely make an effort in your residence hall as well.
Yeah, I would agree. And I've talked to a number of students over the years who are like, I just haven't made friends. And I ask them what they're doing. And I'm like, well, I'm in my room. And that's the last place you're going to make new friends, is you're only there with one other person. So it really is about getting out. And I would say the thing to remember is that for many students, they haven't made friends since kindergarten. Because if you lived in the same place, you've really been with a lot of the same people. So you're out of practice. And that takes time. The good thing is, so is everybody else. So everyone else is trying to find friends too. And that's really the great thing, is that you're all trying to find people. And I know from my experience, you will all find your people over time. So let's see, Adam, why don't we have you answer the next question from Fatmata? Is there a way to reach out to club leaders in order to learn more about their club?
Yeah, so there are actually 5 ways to reach out to club leaders and learn more about their clubs. One is through your RAs. Your RAs are connected to a plethora of resources. They can build a bridge for you to any resource you need, including club leaders. Your frogs, who somehow are the most well-connected people at JMU. I mean, you have a complaint for President John Alger, your frog will have him on the phone within minutes. But they're also very well connected with those club leaders. We've got Be Involved. So if you go to Be Involved, that's BE involved.jmu.edu, you can find contact information and a roster of officers for every single club and organization and program we have registered here at JMU with the Student Activities and Involvement Office. And then we've got Find Your Fit. That's a program run out of the Student Activities and Involvement Office, where you'll actually get kind of a person, a coach. I've been that coach before, who will just ask you, talk to you over the phone, over email, whatever. Hey, what are you into? Hey, let's see if we can find a place for you, and put you in touch with those people. And then we've got Student Org Night in the fall and the spring. Right now it's being run virtually, not sure what it will look like in the fall, but either way, that's a chance for you to one-on-one talk to typically the officers of that organization, the president of that organization, or just members who are very involved with that organization. So there are a lot of ways. I suggest you take a look at Be Involved, because right now that's probably your best bet for getting in touch. I know when I was in my senior year of high school, I reached out to a few organizations through Be Involved. And the second I showed up to JMU, I was welcomed with open arms by a lot of them. So yeah, Be Involved is a great resource. And those other 4 tools are also great too.
All right, that's a very complete answer. I'm going to answer the next one because it's easy. Can you bring a bike your first year on campus? You can bring your bike whenever you want, every year. It's a very bikeable campus. It's also a little hilly, as you heard, so sometimes the bike will make it easier. There's no replacement for the death stairs that Kayla talked about before with your bike, but you can go around. The bike will make it easier. And then that was from Isabella. So it's Leah or Leah. Sorry, I don't know which one. Is it a big deal that there's no AC in some residence halls? Addie, do you want to take that? And then Megan also?
Yeah. No, it's not a big deal at all. The first few months at JMU, I will admit, are kind of hot. August, September, and leading into the beginning of October are pretty hot. So if you do end up in a dorm that doesn't have AC, I would highly recommend bringing those fans and lots of them. But for the majority of the year, JMU's weather tends to be pretty neutral. Right now, we have nothing but ice on the ground. So it's cold. It's really, really cold right now. So honestly, the AC doesn't really matter for a majority of the year. It may be more convenient in the beginning in August, September, and October, but it's nothing that fans can't fix, honestly.
Yeah, I totally second that. I lived in Village back before they had AC over there, and I tell people all the time I'm a sweaty gal. I am naturally warm. I can walk outside in the 30-degree weather with no coat, and I'm like, I feel good. And I survived in Village. So I think, you all will make it and be fine, especially with fans. Like Addie said, they're a lifesaver. And if you ever get too hot, you can go out to the TV lounge because they all have AC, even if your building doesn't. So go hang out in the TV lounge and make some friends if you're too hot.
All right, Aaron's got a question. Is it easy to join clubs and do service if you have a rigorous major such as musical theater? So let's start with Kayla and then Adam on that, and we'll see if anyone else wants to add.
Yeah, so I'm a health sciences major, so there's a lot of classes like anatomy, human physiology that can be very difficult. But I still have time to have a job, be a part of clubs, have a social life. It's all more about time management rather than like, is your major too rigorous? Like, as long as you manage your time well, you're good. I also know people who are music majors that are in like the MRDs or Marching Royal Dukes, the marching band, and are also in like our music fraternities and things like that. So you'll have time. It's not that big of a deal as much. So it'll work out. You'll have time.
So I've had a lot of residents and community members who were musical theater, musical performance, etc. And they were able to stay very involved in a healthy way too. They were able to balance that very well. So it's possible with majors like that. And then myself, I know there are a lot of jokes and memes about how easy business majors have it, but JMU's program is pretty rigorous. I'll be honest with you. And my life in general is relatively rigorous, but I've found that in organizations like JMU kind of breeds a kind of person who's very willing to reach out to folks and step in with folks who might be, struggling to balance stuff. And I've had folks like that in my organizations who have kind of stepped in and helped coach me through balancing things, with all the rigors of student involvement and academics in the Army and stuff like that. I've never been in an organization or a program at JMU that hasn't had at least one person who's willing to step in and kind of mentor me through balancing all of that. So it's doable. And I think honestly at JMU, it's the norm to balance a lot of stuff and have people help you balance that stuff.
And I'll say this and it's going to be a parent kind of an answer, but I'll say it anyway. Every week you have 168 hours. At most, you're in class for about 18 of those. That means you've got 150 hours. It's not that you don't have the time, it's that you're not making the time. The first thing I ask students to do that tell me they don't have time to do things is I ask them to go into their iPhone if they have an iPhone, and let's look and see how much time you're on your phone a day. And when I did this with a student the other day, he was on Snapchat 3 hours a day and Pokemon 2 hours a day. That's 5 hours you just lost that day that nothing really of value came out of your life from those 5 hours. No offense to Pokemon and Snapchat, but it's about making the time, not finding the time. The time is there if you use it well. End of sermon. All right, so let's move to, let's see, which one am I at? I am at finding a roommate from Fiona. Kayla, can you talk a little bit about finding a roommate?
Yeah, so I got really lucky and ended up rooming with one of my lifelong friends. But I know my suite mates ended up finding each other on Facebook. Facebook, I have found, has been like the place to find roommates. You just kind of post a little blob about yourself, you know, if you're clean, if you're dirty, if you like to, how you like to study, that kind of thing. Um, and you'll usually end up finding like your roommate soulmate on there, and you just kind of like say, okay, we're gonna like match each other on the website, and usually as long as there's usually a lot of people in the Facebook groups to find your person, so it's not that hard, I would say. But Facebook, I feel like, is the primary space to find a roommate if you don't want to go random, or if you don't know someone from home or wherever.
And I apologize, that was Rachel's question. The other thing I would note too is that there is a process through JMU that we do. The thing to remember is that you should fill that out, not your parents. What your parents think you do and how you live is not going to be helpful. But also noting that I always tell people, think twice before rooming with your best friend from home. Best friends from home don't live with each other at home. You may not be a good fit when you get here. So think about that. And I also just be honest with people as you're looking. And I think the process through Residence Life is also really good. And a lot of people find their people through that as well. So now we're going to go to Fiona's question, which is picking your major. And I'm going to start with Kayla there also, and we'll see if someone else wants to jump in on that one after Kayla goes.
Yeah, so I applied to JMU as kinesiology, pre-physical therapy. It was one of the few schools that had a really good kinesiology program, and I was like, yeah, this is it. Sent my deposit in and actually said, you know what, change my mind, I'm going to be health sciences. Came in first semester taking health sciences classes, changed my mind back to kinesiology. Then I didn't do well in a kinesiology class, said psych, changed it back to health sciences. I'd say finding your fit takes a little bit, but you'll find it, and it's not hard because of the classes that you take. Like, I went through all that crazy because I was taking classes that made me think critically about what I want to do with the rest of my life. So yeah, now I'm health sciences major, political science minor. Still don't really want to know what I want to do with my life, but I do know because of the classes that I took that that's what I want to do somehow, some way, merging it all together in some odd way to do with the rest of my life. And I'd say it's not hard. Everyone makes it pretty easy. Your academic advisors, talk to them, stay in touch with them. They are there to work for you and work with you to find what you want to do. If it wasn't for my two advisors between the two majors, I would not have made up my mind and I would still be in this weird limbo of life. So yeah, I would say just be open-minded. It's okay to change your major. It's okay to figure it all out, because that's what, kind of like what Dr. Miller said, it's an experience and that's what it's all about. So
anyone else want to talk about picking majors?
I could add a little and just say I agree with, I have had a lot of similar experiences Kayla had. I'm health sciences, but I came in undecided, and gen ed classes get a bad rep, but I came in and just signed up for gen ed classes. I was in Health 100, I think was the class that kind of like sparked my interest, I guess, for health sciences. And then I guess if you come in undecided and you're signing up for gen ed classes, just like Kale said, like paying attention in your classes and like thinking about what you would want to do in the future is a big thing. Because I remember I would like sat next to people in my classes in the Health 100 class, and they're all like hated it, like thought it was all really boring, and I was like, wait, I kind of like everything we're talking about and think it's interesting. So that was like my spark when I was choosing.
No, that's great, Andrew.
And test you, like talking to your advisor is also a good thing.
Yeah, it's so good. I remember the best advice I got after I changed my major the third time out of confusion was someone asked me finally, what classes have you liked well enough to do well enough in to graduate? And I loved all my political science classes I had taken too. And they're like, so why isn't that your major? I'm like, I don't know what I would do with that when I graduate. Like, that's not your problem right now. Your problem is to learn well enough and do well enough to graduate. And you haven't done well enough in previous classes that you didn't like. So take the classes you at least like. And then I did that. And the next thing you know, my grades went up. Everything sort of started falling into place because I wasn't worried about, and again, obviously I got a job, but I wasn't focused on just the job. I was focused on what have I enjoyed. And I think that's really what people have to go after at this point. So Skylar wants to know about learning communities. So Kayla, can you touch on that? And we'll see if any of our Residence Life folks want to add anything after Kayla goes.
Yeah, so the Res Life people are gonna have to get me right on the names, but and like where they are, because I know a lot of them have changed. But I know for ROOP, the teaching learning community, it was just like a short application, and each learning community is assigned to a dorm. So for when my roommate applied, it was ROOP was in Gifford, which is now in Jennings on East Campus, the one of the brand new dorms. And you take a couple classes within like the other people that are also in the community. So you live with them, you learn with them. They also have friends within the community. Literally 3 out of the like my core friend group of 6 people all met because they were all in the learning community. And I know I think there's a biology one, there's a business one, there's a psychology one. I believe like technically Wayland is the music one, I think, because all of them are music. Um the honors college, I guess, is one as well, because they all get their own dorm. So yeah, you just have to apply, I believe, and there's definitely way more information on the ORL site, the Office of Residence Life site. But yeah, y'all can take it over because y'all probably know way more than I do about that.
Yeah, so you do apply for these learning communities when you're going through your whole setup of your profile and all that jazz through I cannot remember what the actual portal is called, so you all probably know what it is. But when you're going through that, you do apply to these learning communities, and when you show up, it's kind of like almost like a cohort. So you've got this group of friends who you live with, who you learn with, who you study with. Typically, there's some kind of faculty member assigned to you in one way or another. I know the psychology learning community that I kind of inherited as an RA in Hoffman, they would have classes in Hoffman, just down in our programming space, which was very convenient. And it was great because they would use that space to study as well. And if you know anything about evidence-based study practices, studying in the space that you actually test in is one of the best ways to do it. And then I was in the business learning community as a first year. And it was kind of the same experience, just living with these folks, learning with these folks, studying with these folks. It really is a great way to make friends as well as succeed in academics. We got involved in a lot of the same stuff. So great way to make friends. It was a great experience. A lot of these folks are still living together. I was over at a friend's place the other day, and these are friends who I've had for years. And the reason they live together is because we were in the same learning community. So it's a great experience. And if you want to learn any more about it, just go to the JMU Office of Residence Life website to see if there's anything I missed with the application process.
All right, so we have 6 more questions left, and there's still more coming in, and I know we want to not keep everybody too long, so I'm going to keep us moving. So next question is from Grace, asking about getting the class times you want. I assume that's probably class times and dates. Let's start with Addie, and I want at least one other person to jump in after Addie goes. So Addie.
Yeah, so JMU enrollment is notorious for being quite the challenge. So I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's not the easiest thing in the world, but the biggest piece of advice I would have when you're picking out your schedule is to have multiple options available. Make sure that you can be available at multiple different times for different sections of the classes that you're wanting to take. And honestly, maybe have a few different types of classes from each gen ed that you're willing and open to take, because classes close very, very quickly because there's only a certain amount of seats that are available for each section So I would definitely go into the enrollment process with a very open mind and a very open schedule. Maybe count on not getting your first schedule option. Maybe count on getting 2, 3, sometimes maybe even option 4. So definitely go in with a lot of open-mindedness and availability.
Anyone else want to weigh in?
I would just say that open enrollment is your best friend. After everyone ends up picking their classes after you get an enrollment appointment, you basically what they do is just open everything up for free for all, and check it regularly. You never know what classes will open up. Even if it's just one seat, do it. Just take it. Take the seat. If you think, oh, this is on wait list, like it's going to be too long, well, the wait list will end up getting full and the class will close. So just get on the wait list. You never know. Yeah, so open enrollment's your best friend, and so is the wait list. Just give it a shot.
Yeah. The final thing I'll just say on that one is this is about perspective. If you think that by the end of that block of time, you're going to have your final fall schedule, then you're going to be disappointed. Almost no one does, partially because you're going to wheel and deal and change and all that until sometimes the first week of classes. So it's all about perspective for you and your parents that are paying attention as you're doing that very few people end up taking the classes that they have on that day once they get to that next semester, sometimes by choice. So even if it's your dream schedule, you're still looking for the best dream schedule. FOMO is alive and well in the enrollment process. So then let's talk about what are options for getting extra help for classes. Are they easy? How do you do that? So that's from Gianna. And Addie, I'm going to go back to you for this.
So I suck at math. So I want to preface that by saying math is my absolute worst subject. And I, as a psych major, have had to take a lot of math classes. So I have really, at my time here, utilized the Math Center and the Student Success Center. There are tutors there that literally will help you with any problem that you have: statistics, algebra, trigonometry, chemistry, physics, the whole shebang. So I would definitely recommend utilizing those learning centers. There's also a writing one too, where you can write out your papers for your classes and send it to them, and they'll edit it and correct things, and you can meet with them to talk about maybe ways that you could improve it. So I would definitely look into resources that the Student Success Center offers, but also utilizing your professor's office hours too. They have office hours for a reason. They are professors for a reason. They want to teach you, they want to help you, and they want to see you succeed. So I would recommend taking advantage of that time that you may get with your professor.
And Addie, just because I think it's the next question we're going to get, what's your dog's name, since we just saw your dog?
It's actually Wilson, after Wilson Hall on the quad, ironically enough.
Love it. Love it. All right. Next one's not a question, just a statement. Just because it'll embarrass Andrew, I'll say it. Jasmine wanted to point out that Andrew was her TA for Health 231. So there you go, Andrew. You're famous. Let's have Adam answer this next question. Very detailed question from Annie. What body of water do people kayak in? Talk about national parks and outdoor activities. Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, so, and again, reference to UREC here, the University Recreation Center. I know folks on their own and through UREC use the Shenandoah River and then the Massanutten River as well for kayaking. To our east, we've got, well, actually just all around us, we've got the Shenandoah National Park. Then we've also got the George Washington National Forest about 30 minutes away. And then we've got the Monongahela right over the West Virginia border. So we've got 3 national parks essentially and 2 bodies of water that are all great for kayaking, backpacking, hiking, climbing, rock scrambling, everything. So there's a lot to do in the area just within a 30-minute radius. So yeah, kayaking through UREC and on your own you can do in the Shenandoah River, out of Massanutten, and then hiking and backpacking and all that. You've got 3 national parks, within a stone's throw. So there's a lot to do in terms of outdoors. And visit the UREC website for more information, or straight up Google like outdoor activities around JMU. There are tons of websites. There's actually, in one of the writing classes, folks have to build websites for outdoor activities around JMU. So there are tons because it's a grade in that class. So there's a lot to do, lots to do.
Yeah, and I would also just add that we are not too far away from the Gauley River, which when they have the dam opening ends up with some 5+ rapids. and is thought of as one of the best places to raft at that time of year in the entire world. So we're actually pretty close to that. And I've been on there twice now with students, and it is what it says it is all I'll say. But it's a lot of fun. So we are close to a lot of that. Addie, we have a specific question for you from Emily. What makes the psychology program at JMU special?
So I came into JMU knowing that I wanted to be a psych major. So I wasn't really drawn to it like necessarily when I got here. I knew that that's what I wanted to do and I was going to get in no matter what. So one thing that I absolutely love about the major is the foundation that you have to go through in the beginning. So like I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of math courses that you have to go through, statistics and things like that to be able to understand the research that you're going to be reading in your more intensive classes and things like that, because research is referenced so many times. Without research, there would be no psychology. So anyways, there's the foundation that the program sets for you is unlike any other that I've ever heard of. One of my friends goes to another school in Virginia. She's also a psych major. They don't have anywhere near the foundation that the JMU Psych Department sets for us. Not only that, but also the professors that I've had have worked previous jobs and different positions prior to coming to JMU. So they have so much real world experience in the jobs and the careers that you may be interested in, that I'm interested in, and things like that. And overall, I just think it really has prepared me. I'm applying for graduate schools now for psychology, and I could not feel more prepared. And I know that when I put JMU psychology down, I know that the program speaks for itself. So I just feel really good about the program overall.
All right, great, thanks. So Kayla, Haley wants to know what's your concentration. I'm gonna add and why.
I don't necessarily have a concentration. I believe Andrew does, public health education. But I know I think that's the only technical concentration. But most people end up doing health sciences with a pre-professional health minor. So pre-physical therapy, occupational therapy, physician's assistant, all that kind of stuff. I'm kind of just taking classes that align with more of like the health policy side because I'm a political science minor and that's like my interest with like healthcare and things like that. So I'm kind of gonna hand it over to Andrew since he's actually a concentration, if that's okay with him.
Yeah, so I'm public health education, like Kayla said, but I think the concentration thing in health sciences has changed since I declared my concentration. But a lot of I'd say like the baseline concentration that if you don't declare one, your health studies, and there's also health administration, and I think one more, but that might have changed. I'm not sure. You guys can check out like the health sciences website for that. But I came in undecided and then chose health sciences, and I think the fall of my sophomore year I declared I chose the public health education concentration just because in a lot of the classes I was taking, I want to get my master's in public health. I want to work in the public health field. Not sure exactly the role I want to have right after I graduate, but I guess I'll say if you are in health sciences and you choose not to have a concentration, that's okay, because you'll take generally the same kind of classes depending, like it doesn't vary too much on your concentration, but I know that I take maybe a couple different classes or they're required, like compared to just health studies since I'm public health education.
Okay, great. So we're gonna do 2 more questions and ask everyone to answer them, and we have 7 minutes. So first question is one that you've already seen. So that is, since you're on your own now, how do you deal with procrastination or just having the motivation to study? So let's expand that a little bit. And that's from Jackie. How did you manage your time when you came to college? So how do you sort of learn once you weren't, someone made sure you were awake, someone made sure you got on a bus or got in your car to get to school, end of the day happened, and then someone was making sure finish your studying before dinner, all that. So I want you each to answer that. We'll do that in regular alphabetical order. And then we'll go back and do regular alphabetical order for the last question, which is, imagine yourself February 13th, the spring before you started at JMU. That's why I'm going to tell you this question now, because you need some time to think about it. What advice would you give yourself at that point? What would you tell yourself? What seeds would you plant for yourself then? So that's the one you need to think about a little bit. So, and since you all are already successful, the first question's easy. So since you're on your own now, like how did you sort of learn to organize your life, get your life together, be organized, etc.? Do you have a plan or whatever? However you want to answer that. And Adam, we will start with you.
Yeah, so like this is tough, right? Because we are on our own now, and especially in this remote environment as we're coming out of it, even we're still on our own a little bit. So I for years just asked people what worked for them, and asked people to hold me accountable for when if I procrastinated on something, didn't get it done on time, call me out for it, let me know. And then seeing the results of procrastinating on assignments, not doing well on them. So those all prompted me to ask people what worked for them. And even then, like a checklist a day, it didn't necessarily work too well for me. Organizing into morning, afternoon, evening didn't necessarily work well for me. It wasn't until I got to the class that you have to take to be an RA. We did this track your time assignment. It's like, hey, every 30 minutes, what did you do during that 30 minutes? And that clicked for me. So that's how I organize my life right now, is on an Excel spreadsheet. Well, it's a Google Sheet spreadsheet, but on a Google Sheet spreadsheet in 30-minute blocks, what do you have to do in that 30-minute block? And that works for me. But the thing that I really want to note here is that works for me. You've got to find out what works for you. That is absolutely essential, because there's a lot of research here, but when it comes down to it, even if the research tells you to do something, if that thing doesn't work for you, maybe don't do it. So that's how I do it: 30-minute blocks, and asking folks to hold me accountable for when I miss a deadline or something like that. But you really do have to figure it out on your own. But that doesn't mean don't ask people what works for them. Find out just ask, how do you do this? Try it. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, it's all good. Ask somebody else. Figure something else out.
Great. Thanks, Adam.
Yeah, I can totally agree with what Adam said about doing what works for you is the most important thing. I'm trying to think of, let's see, I guess staying organized is a key thing. Having a calendar, planner, whatever it may be. I think for every student is an important thing, is to stay organized, to keep track, like stay on top of your assignments or student organization things. And I can speak a lot about my personal experiences from this, but my freshman year coming in, like when I first came in, I was just doing gen ed courses, but like my first week, I remember I had this moment. I was like, so I have to like schedule time every day to like study and do homework. Like it's not like high school at all, which can sound scary, and I don't want it to sound like that. But just like having that mindset, I don't know, the classes aren't exactly like high school. I mean, you have so much free time, which is also a step or a change from high school as well, when you're on your own. So you have to hold yourself accountable. Having your roommates, friends, people in your classes, it can be really helpful to keep you accountable. But I can say one thing that can help you just with your mindset, I guess, with all of it, is just thinking about why you're at school. Like you are there to make friends and have a good time and join student orgs and all that, but thinking about like you're there to study and like get a degree, and like you're spending money to take classes and succeed, so you don't want to waste your money, waste your time at the school. That sounds generic, but that kind of helps me.
No, that's great, Andrew. Thanks.
So for me personally, I've always been a really independent person. I never had trouble in high school, like with my parents telling me what I needed to do and stuff like that. But one thing that I really had to learn quickly my first year was that level of self-advocacy. I tended to really go into things head first, and whatever I could take, just let me do it. I want to do them. I want to do all the things. I want to experience all the fun. But after a while, you get burnt out if you take on too much. So realizing the things that maybe are beneficial for you, and maybe realizing the things that aren't beneficial for you, and being able to have that self-advocacy to say, hey, like this is a little bit too much. Can we maybe dial it back a little bit? Or can I have less to do? Or maybe I need to shift my focus from this class to this class, or, whatever that situation looks like for you. Being your own self-advocate and being the person who's going to hold yourself accountable and make sure that you are good and make sure that you're handling everything that you need to be handling is a huge part of this transition.
Great. Kayla?
Yeah, so in high school, I would be considered the very busybody that had no social life. I was in every club known to man, but not only was I in the club, I was a leader of the club and did the whole shebang. So when I got to college, I ended up kind of what Addie said, I was burnt out. Mentally, just like I was done. So I said when I got to college, I'm doing like one club, like that's it. And because the rest of it's gonna be school. But then I ended up bored out of my mind because I was always so active. So you just have to learn. For me, I guess what I learned is that time management. Like in high school, I was always busy, didn't have a social life because I was in too much. And when I got to college, I was like, well, I'm just gonna do nothing because like everything is school, but everything isn't school. So finding that balance is kind of like what Adam said, work whatever works for you. And I have recently found that balance. The pandemic has messed it up a little bit, but we're fine. We're getting back in the groove. But yeah, whatever, you have to find the balance between the school, the social, the involvement, because they all intermingle very closely, but you have to find what works for you. And until you do that, it can be a little stressful, but once you do, it's smooth sailing. It's really fun.
Great. And Megan, you're going to take us home, and everybody, because we're at time, your advice is 10 seconds of advice. So when we come back around, it's very quick advice. So Megan, go ahead.
All right. A lot of people have said the stuff that I wanted to say, so I just have some tips. If you're looking to balance social and studying together, make your studying social. Go to Carrier Library with your friends and study and hang out with them. It really helps you feel like you're seeing your people and also getting stuff done. And utilize Google Calendar, Canvas, which is a site we use for all of our classes. Put all your stuff in and have it give you alerts, because that's how I remember how to do a lot of stuff.
All right. So I'm going to cut you off after 10 seconds. Adam, go.
Stop planning so much. Do what you're doing right now really well. Stop focusing so much on the 20-year goal.
Addie.
Stop focusing on the future. I agree. Stop focusing on everything that's going to happen in the next 4 years and focus on what you're doing today.
Andrew?
Easier said than done, but fear is a big thing freshman year, but put yourself out there, talk to anyone you want to talk to. If you don't think about how you're going to look to other people, and that'll help you overall.
All right. Kayla?
Breathe. It's all going to work out no matter what happens. No matter what your decisions are, the good, the bad, the ugly, it's going to work out.
Megan?
People are the point. Find people who are willing to invest in you and invest your time into other people.
Love it. Great job, everybody. Appreciate it. Folks, a class of 2025 here at JMU, welcome. There are still plenty more live chats this semester, so check out our full schedule at jmu.edu/choices. We look forward to seeing all of you in the fall. If you have any questions, I'm sure you could find these people on LinkedIn and Facebook and Insta and all those places. Check them out. Thank you for being here today. Thanks so much to our panel. Great job. And we will see you all soon. Go Dukes and take care.